He grew up in Hawaii and Indonesia. He was a community organizer in Chicago, then went to Harvard Law School and became a civil rights attorney and professor of constitutional law. He served in the Illinois State Senate, then ran for the U.S. Senate. He gained national attention with his keynote address at the Democratic National Convention, and 4 years later, he defeated Hillary Clinton to win the presidential nomination. He then went on to win the presidency, defeating Republican Senator John McCain, and was re-elected 4 years later. As president, he worked with Congress to pass the Affordable Care Act, the Dodd-Frank Reform Bill, and an economic stimulus bill to combat the Great Recession. In foreign policy, he increased troop levels in Afghanistan, ended military involvement in Iraq, brokered a nuclear deal with Iran, and ordered the raid that resulted in the death of Osama bin Laden. He retired to a home in Washington and worked on writing his memoirs and opening his presidential library in Chicago. He is our nation's 44th chief executive, Barack Obama. Let's take a look at some maps for some sites associated with Barack Obama. This, of course, is a map of Hawaii. Barack Obama was the first president born outside the contiguous 48 states. And interestingly enough, his opponent in the 2008 election, John McCain, was also born outside the contiguous 48 states. He was born in the Panama Canal Zone, and both of them were sitting U.S. senators. Obama became only the third sitting U.S. senator to be elected president. The other two are Warren G. Harding and John F. Kennedy. So a little trivia there. Obama was born in Honolulu at the Kapiolani Medical Center for Women and Children. And he spent part of his childhood in Indonesia. He lived there with his mother for 4 years and then came back to Hawaii and lived in Honolulu. And there is actually a house there where he lived with his mother in Honolulu. It's a private home and not open to the public. Now let's take a look at another map. This is a map of Illinois and the Midwest. Barack Obama lived in Chicago and was a community organizer there. He was then a state senator and then was elected to the U.S. Senate from Illinois. His presidential library and museum is being built on the south side of Chicago. As of this recording, it's not yet open. The Obamas, after their presidency, moved into a house in Washington, D.C., and they also recently purchased a house on Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts. Now let's take a look at some photographs of these locations. Now let's take a look at some books in my collection relating to Barack Obama. This is an interesting book that was published in 2011. It's called A Singular Woman, The Untold Story of Barack Obama's Mother. And it tells about Obama's mother, Stanley Ann Dunham, her life in Hawaii and Indonesia as an anthropologist, and Barack Obama's early life. This is a book by Edward Klein that was published in 2012, a book that's critical of the Obama administration in its first term. It's called The Amateur, Barack Obama in the White House. And here's a book by Ben Rhodes that was published in 2018. Ben Rhodes was a deputy national security advisor during the Obama administration. He also worked on the 2008 campaign. His book is called The World as It Is, a memoir of the Obama White House. And he talks a little bit about Obama's run for the presidency and then his experiences inside the Obama White House throughout its 8 years. President Obama is currently working on his memoirs. They've not yet been published. First Lady Michelle Obama published a book called Becoming, which came out in 2019. Here's a book on the 2008 election, published in 2009. It's called The Battle for America, The Story of an Extraordinary Election by Dan Balls and Haynes Johnson. Obama's opponent in the 2008 election, of course, was Senator John McCain of Arizona. And this is a short book about McCain's life. It's called Citizen McCain by Elizabeth Drew. And it was published before the election in 2002. McCain's running mate, of course, was Sarah Palin, and after that campaign, she wrote a book telling about her life and her experiences in the 2008 campaign, and it's called Going Rogue in American Life. And here's a book about the 2012 presidential election between Barack Obama and Mitt Romney. It was published in 2013. It's also by Dan Balls, and it's called Collision 2012, Obama versus Romney in the Future of Elections in America. And a good book profiling Romney from 2012 is The Real Romney by Michael Kranish and Scott Hellman. And I had mentioned in previous episodes that I have several books with photographs from White House photographers. This is a really good one. It's by Pete Souza, who is Obama's official White House photographer. It's called Obama, An Intimate Portrait. And you can see it's a nice big book, and it's got a lot of really great photographs in here from the 8 years of Obama's presidency. Our next episode will take a look at our nation's 45th president, Donald J. Trump.